Welcome to the Newsmakers Podcast. I'm Billy Hollowell, and this is a show where we go behind the headlines every day to bring you an interview with a pastor, entertainer, politician, or other notable news figure. And this is a show, again, it's daily, but it's based on our weekly TV show, which is also called Newsmakers. You can watch it on the CBN News channel and also on our YouTube page. And on this show, every day, we dive deep. It's a little more longer form with one of the people who you will often see on our Newsmakers show or across the CBN News platforms. On today's Newsmakers, worship leader Sean Feucht is stepping into the chaotic anti-Israel protests to offer an alternative, a gospel-fueled response. Let's welcome him to talk all about a new march that he is planning on Thursday evening in New York City, a march to respond to that horrific anti-Semitism. So, Sean, you have the United for Israel March coming up on April 25th at 6:30 p.m. Talk a little bit about the impetus for this event.
Yeah, I mean, I think, every Christian and person of faith across America should be absolutely horrified at what we're seeing take place right now on these university campuses that have become hotbeds for anti-Semitism and hatred of the Jews and annihilation of an entire nation. And So, this is essentially a response to that. And it's rallying the church, it's rallying Jewish leaders, it's rallying organizations that want to say, you know what? This is America. These are our universities and campuses in our cities. We're not going to stand for this. And man, we're excited. God's wind is breathing on this gathering for sure.
What are you expecting to happen during? Talk a little bit about the march. What will, actually strategically sort of happen during it?
Yeah, so, I don't know how many you guys have followed what took place in 2020 with Let Us Worship, but I feel like this is a really similar kind of a thing where, Chop Zone was taken over with crazy anarchists and Antifa and BLM activists, and we came in there with worship and prayer and unity and baptisms of revival and changed the entire environment. And more than anything, I feel like this gives hope to America. Listen, there are people that are going to rise up with courage and boldness that are going to say enough's enough. We're going to stand with our Jewish brothers and sisters. We're going to respond to the command in Genesis 12 that says, "I'll bless those that bless you. I'll curse those that curse you." We're going to stand with Israel. We're going to stand with these students that are being harassed and abused and shut out of their own university. And, you can expect worship. You can expect prayer. You can expect us marching. You're going to see a lot of joyful people with guitars and Israel flags and probably shofars. And, you're going to see what you saw all through 2020, the church rising up to stand up against evil and darkness and hate, and to bring the love and the joy and the hope of Jesus.
How many people, are you expecting? I know that's always hard to sort of gauge with an event like this, but it sounds like there's a big response so far.
I have no idea, to be honest with you. I would sure hope that an event like this would attract a lot, though. And, we're believing, I know that there's a guy called me today, said he's bringing 6 busloads of people in from New Jersey.
Wow.
And, so we're just praying that this becomes a rallying point. God's given us a voice and an influence in these dark days, and we want to use it the best that we can. And so this for us is one of those moments where we just can't be quiet. We can't sit back. We got to do something. We got to rally the church, people of faith. And so I'm excited to see what God's going to do.
No, I love that. And, I've got to ask you this, because there are going to be people who say, well, why? Why do Christians need to defend Israel right now? And I know that that's a question you are prepared to answer. So I'm going to throw that to you, because it's a big question. I think there's a lot of confusing messages being sent out there in the media right now.
Yeah. What you're seeing is what we're witnessing, and it eerily parallels what happened in the 30s, where this was this institutional and cultural hatred and disgust for the Jewish people. Just imagine this: if the things that they were saying and promoting and shouting on those campuses were said about African Americans or Hispanics or virtually any other group of people, it would not be allowed. But for some reason, it's being tolerated by the faculty and the professors and the city because it's hatred against the Jews. And I mean, this is a big deal. It's a big deal for believers. It's a big deal for really Americans that want to rise up right now and say, we're not going to tolerate this. We understand that this is the work of the enemy. We understand that the the reason why Columbia is so big is because it spawned off all these other protests taking place on Yale and Harvard, and I saw today University of Michigan, Minnesota, several other campuses, Berkeley, across America. So we want to go to the heart of where this all began and say enough is enough. We are rising up. We're coming to bring the light. We're coming to say we're not going to be pushed around, and we're going to join with our Jewish brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are watching this right now, a lot of Christians in particular, and they're looking at scripture and they're looking at prophecy and they're saying, my gosh, what is going on here, right? And I think a lot of eyes are on this for many reasons. There's the practical stance of defending those who are, in Israel in the midst of what happened after October 7th. There's that practical sense, but then there's a spiritual sense to this as well. Can you speak to that a little bit? Just what's going through your heart and your mind as you sort of watch this? We just saw Iran launch an attack, which has never happened before, from their land on Israel. What's been going through your heart as you watch those events and weigh that against prophecy and what we see in scripture?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those moments where it reminds us, like, we are living in the last days. These are the end times. We're here. We're living in the midst of it. And what I'm trying to do, my heart behind this, is to get Americans to stop scrolling. Like, stop scrolling, like, for a minute. I know that this is another story, and this is 2024, and it's an election year, and things are crazy, and it seems like every day it's like a new page out of the book of Revelation. But this is one of those things we got to stop scrolling for a minute and say, okay, hold on a second. God has promises over this nation. He has promises over this people. They're being attacked in our own country, right? Not only are they being attacked from Iran and the Middle East and all these nations that despise them and have for many years and want to obliterate them off the face of the earth, but now they're being attacked in our own country. And this comes a moment for all Christians where we got to stop scrolling, stop moving to the next news, urgent news thing, and say, God, how do you want us to respond? And I believe that our response is important to the heart of the Lord. Our response is important to the future of our children, is important to the future of America. What kind of country do we want to live in the last days? And so I want to be the country that stands up for the Jewish people. I want to be a nation that's a safe harbor for them. I want to be a place that defends their right to exist in the world. And I think that's why I feel so urgent about doing this.
So final question for you, and you spoke to this a little bit, but I want, as we sort of close out, I want people to understand this, particularly those who would be critical of it or see it as, just this big counter protest. When you've done these events in the past, you have seen incredible things happen, baptisms, changes of heart. What is your hope for some of the things you'll see on the ground that happen on the evening when you host this march?
My hope, man, I want to change the atmosphere. I want to go in there with worship and prayer like we do in all these cities. I mean, you should have seen it, man. Like, America had been seeing rioting and destruction and violence and murder and rape and all these things happening in Seattle and Portland in 2020. And it was like the moment worship came in, it displaces darkness. It breaks the tension. It brings freedom. And I want to see that same spirit be released on the campus of Columbia University in the heart of New York City. And I want for all of America to realize the authority that we have as Christians, right? When we walk into atmospheres like that, we don't succumb to the darkness, we bring the light. And that is the biggest thing. Of course, I believe we're going to minister to people. We're going to pray for people. I think we're going to see historic unity, but I want to see the atmosphere change, and I want to see hope rise in the heart of every American that watches the church show up this Thursday night.
All right, one more question. Okay, so, how do you keep safe? Because you go into some really tough arenas, and let's be honest, there's a lot of emotions around this. You go in there and you do this. How do you make sure that you have the right security in place? It seems like you have a good apparatus, but how do you do that?
Yeah. Well, I tell people I feel like the safest place to be is right in the will of God. I know that He's calling us to do this. But at the same time, I mean, I just had a group of ex-Navy SEALs reach out to us asking if they could be our security team. I mean, there's a bunch of amazing people that are going to be there. And, the the bottom line is, I mean, I had people tell us we were going to get injured and we were going to get assaulted and we were getting all this stuff. And some of that did happen in the last few years. But man, the level of safety, like, angelic protection, prayer support. I mean, for those of you that are on here that can't join us in person, I know what you can do. You can pray that God would show up, pray for protection. If you want to join our prayer list, you can text the word pray to 20221. You can text pray, P-R-A-Y, to 20221. Join our prayer list. And I don't know. I feel like God's going to take care of us just like He does all the other crazy times we've jumped into stuff like this.
Well, Sean, appreciate your time today, breaking it all down for us. The event is United for Israel March. It's on the 25th, Thursday night at 6:30 Eastern Time. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. God bless.
That's all for today's Newsmakers podcast. Be sure to tune in for the next episode of the show, and also head over to the CBN News YouTube channel and the CBN News channel to watch Newsmakers every week. We'll see you soon.